got into filmmaking because I came through advertising and commercials. That's my full-time job, my day job. And through that, I kind of met a lot of people who were still in the film world. It's something I always wanted to do, so I just had a crack at it, really. And that was it. And then a guy called Matt, who used to make my commercials for KFC, he won the Oscar in 2015, I think it was. And that really inspired me to have a go.
Okay, so in terms of then filmmaking influences, I recently spoke to Alistair, and he cites John Carpenter and David Cronenberg as his influences. Who were your sort of big-time sort of people that you looked up to?
I've got quite an eclectic taste. I think coming through as a kid, I always was quite a cinephile. I watched a lot of the Hollywood films, but for this film in particular, we kind of looked at the work of Paul Greengrass. He was a big touch point. So, yeah, we kind of always wanted to kind of documentary feel, get really in the thick of the action and things like that. And it really kind of, particularly Captain Phillips, was a big touch point for this one, yeah.
Okay, so very much a grounded, realistic filmmaker who sort of gives the impression that he's in the trenches rather than just being a casual observer then.
Very much so, yeah. Very much so.
Okay, so let's talk about your film then, G.S.W, which for some people who haven't seen enough CSI really should know that G.S.W stands for gunshot wound. Now, your film centres around a character called Beth, paramedic, who finds herself in a very, very, very tricky situation. What was your approach in bringing these two themes together, and did you sort of feel any relations to, but given your parents are medical professionals, did you relate at all to Beth's dilemma and the circumstances?
I certainly did as a parent. I think when your child's not in your care anymore and you're trusting, people to look after them and all that kind of stuff, it kind of really felt like a lot was coming to the surface for me personally. And when I sit down to write this, I kind of started with how I would feel, because I thought that felt more genuine and a real emotion, it's starting something that I'm going through. So that was really how I kind of came to it. And then I think the issue of like school shootings in America and things like that, it's not something that ever came into my mind really. I didn't really think our film would travel to America, but it has now. So I kind of just thought, what's the stress really? And really we just went from there.
You mentioned that Paul Greengrass was a big influence in the way you approach your filmmaking. So given the very real nature of the film and the sort of frenetic energy that comes across in the trailer, how much of Greengrass's style of filmmaking crept into or basically impacted your approach to making this film?
I think, to be honest, a lot of it was decided by the setting, because when you're in an ambulance, there's not a really amount you can really move. The camera kind of only can go so many places once it's got two people in a stretcher in it. So I thought, how can we maximize the time on the day without having to do big setups and things like that? And it kind of naturally found itself, really. And I was always a big fan of Paul Greengrass's work. And there's a scene at the end of Captain Phillips where he's getting a medical exam. And you saw the way the camera moved from person to person and picked people out, real genuine emotions and things like that. And I thought that might be a really good way to do this, because it felt real and felt grounded. There's nothing really fantastical about our film. It's basically two people in a bad situation, really. So it kind of all just seemed to fit, really.
Okay. So all in all then, what are you hoping people will get out of the film? Is there a message, or are you going to leave the audience to basically interpret their own take on this particularly tough situation?
I definitely left things vague to let people to fill in for themselves. Like, who is the guy on the stretcher? Where did he come from? How did he get there? That's not anything we ever answer in the film. And we kind of leave it in people's minds to work that out. In terms of how I want people to feel, I think I want people to feel a bit shell-shocked. I didn't really want to make a political commentary about gun crime or anything like that, because it's not really, that kind of felt a bit ham-fisted to do it that way. I just thought I'd let it just do its own thing as a story. So shell-shocked is probably how I'd expect people to feel afterwards.
So we're kind of all going to be along for the ride, but we're really going to feel the ups and downs.
Yeah, for sure. It takes a few twists and turns here and there, and I think the idea that we kind of lead people one way, then another way, then another place after that, it's only under 8 minutes long, but it feels like you feel every minute of it, I think.
So one last question then. So as I mentioned before, we're here at the 2nd annual HollyShorts Film Festival in London. How do you feel having your film being screened at this prestigious event?
Really thrilled, to be honest. I mean, we only really started our run in September, and now we're in middle of November. We've kind of done really well, but to to be at HollyShorts. I was here last year to support a friend, and I never really thought about it that we'd be here the following year. So I was really, really thrilled when it all came through. So yeah, fantastic. I feel blessed more than anything. And I came here not really for the competition element, more just to connect with like-minded people in the community of people that, all love film really. So that's my motivation really, I think.